or takes his life, the spirit has to be dealt with. So the spirit is set in darkness as punishment until it's time for judgment. Light is so important to the spirit. Let me continue. Enoch 13:1. And these are the fallen angels talking now. This is how you can understand how wickedness is a victim. Then Enoch passing on side to Azazel. You should not obtain peace. A great sentence is gone forth against you. He shall bind you. So what happened is, fallen angels came here and did their dirt. Created Nephilims, which were giants that began to eat man. Once they ate animals, they began to eat men. So much destruction, they began to destroy themselves. So you're talking about blood all over the place. I've seen the skeletons of Nephilims. A buddy who was a Mormon or, Church of Latter-day Saint or Mormon, showed me a book where archaeologists in the 1700s and 1800s dug up these massive graves that were taller than telephone poles. The church does not want you to see these skeletons, because if you did, you would not be talking about going to heaven, because they look like monsters. Okay, let's continue. So Azazel, who was one of the sons of heaven or fallen angels, asked Enoch, put in a good word for us, man. Go ask dude, is it going to be cool? Enoch comes back and says, no, man, you shall not obtain peace. It's a great sentence going out against you, man. He going to bind you. Enoch 13:2. Neither shall relief, mercy, and supplication is yours on account of the oppression which you have taught. They taught Eve abortion. They taught Eve molten metal, how to make swords. They taught Eve how to make breastplates, shields. They taught Eve how to polish stone. They taught Eve how to melt gold, silver. You say, what's wrong with these, Anthony? They create death. They bring death. A person will cut your throat for a polished diamond. A diamond in the rough, people will toss that thing like it's a rock. Once you cut it and polish it, they'll cut your throat. Molten metal. Once you melt that metal down, what are you using it for? You're using it for a sword. You're using it for a gun. Gold dust, powdered dust, gold, silver. No, they ain't going to do too much to you. But melt it down and make that bling bling chain. Now somebody wants to cut your throat. It brings death, and death is sin. That's why. Enoch 13:4. Then departing from him, I spoke to them all together. Enoch is the one who wrote down about heaven, wrote down about the Nephilims, let us learn about the great flood and all these things, see. Very important. But what the church decided was they have to remove the book. The church people decided amongst themselves that out of 100 holy scriptures, you only needed 66. My book has 71. Other books have 73. But they will not give you the whole 100 scriptures. Why? Because they've decided amongst themselves what you need to know. And then you go and bow and pray to them like you're bowing and praying to Yeshua. Ignorant. Okay. Enoch 13:5. Then I departed from him, and I spoke to them all. Enoch 13:5. And they all became terrified and trembled from what he told them. In other words, Yahuwah is going to punish you. In other words, it's similar to what your brothers or your sisters would say. Mama going to get you. Mama won't talk to you right now. You're going to get it. Ooh, I see Mama getting that belt. You become terrified. You be have to do it like this. Mama, she lied. No, mama. Huh? Terrified. Okay, let me continue. Enoch 13:6. Beseeching me to write the memorial of supplication, that they might obtain forgiveness, and that I might make the memorial of their prayer ascend up before heaven on account of the disgraceful offense for which they were judged. Okay. Oh, let me finish that. I didn't read that right. I think I missed a page. 13:6. For me to write them a memorial of supplication, that they might obtain forgiveness, and that I might make the memorial of their prayer ascend up before heaven. Because remember, when you pray, your prayers go up to heaven. This is something I learned, folks. Never do the finger, because you're pointing up to heaven. Don't do that. Stop that mess. If you do the finger, point it down, point it out. Don't point it up, because it goes up to heaven. So your prayers go up to heaven. So they needed Enoch to pray for them. And what they said was, Enoch, what did he say? Enoch said, dude, it don't look good for you. You in trouble. So they said, Enoch, write us a letter to Yahuwah, you know who you call God. Write him a letter and ask him for forgiveness for us. And this is what they're doing. And that I might make the memorial of their prayer ascend up before heaven, because they could not themselves thenceforth address him, nor raise up their eyes to heaven on account of the disgraceful offense for which they were judged. What they did when they came to earth. Now you have to understand, folks, if there were women in heaven, they would have never left. Let's be for real. Because men are always trying to get to the best of a quality woman. The best of a quality woman. When we're young, we may go out and mess with the tramps and the whores. Let's put it that way. But as men become older or want to marry, what do they want to marry? Probably purebred. Or pure breed, they call it. But I mean, nice long dress, clean cut, respectable, and one they can go show to mama. You out there with the hot pants and the wedgies up the rear end and all tatted up. He never took you to meet mama, did he? It's not crazy. Okay, let's continue. So in other words, they were so disgraceful, and what they did was so terrible, they could not even look up to heaven. Now you know that's bad. Enoch 14:3. Judgment has been passed upon you. Your requests will not be granted. Go ask mama, can I go outside? So little sister, little brother goes in there. Jimmy said, can he go outside? Mama says, no. Go back and tell him, no, clean his room. There you go. The only difference is, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about Yahuwah, who you call God, and they're asking for forgiveness. Did you know what those fallen angels needed? They needed Yeshua, Jesus, huh? They were supposed to go to Jesus, save me. But as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, there was no Savior for them. Enoch 14:4. From this time forward, never shall you ascend into heaven, he has said, that on earth he will bind you as long as the world endures. You are in heaven. Everything is good, dude. Everything is good. You don't need nothing. And you come to this dirty world to seek out what? Women who got underwear pulled up the rear end? Dude. Come on. But like the fallen angels would have said, the sons of heaven, hey dude, we didn't have nothing up here. So, we had to get off that boat, man. come down and hang out with you, look at what you partying with. Okay, let me continue real quick, folks. You must have an unclean spirit if you want to make the soul, which is your body, appear unclean. The appearance of an unclean soul is popular in today's society. So, in other words, you notice how all of a sudden tattoos have been out for thousands of years. All of a sudden there was this fad and everybody had to go get a tattoo. Okay, that means you've taken the soul and I've decided to give it an unclean appearance. Let's face it. In order for me to take the soul and have an unclean appearance, I have to have an unclean spirit inside. Because the unclean spirit is what's telling the soul what to do. As simple as that. It is impossible for you to go and have an unclean soul, body, and say that you represent Yahuwah. Because most people who see this unclean soul or body is going to say, man, I don't know what he was thinking about. I don't know why he put that on. You hear, I don't know why she put that on, girl. Look how you looking. You all looking raunchy. Okay. What made you put that on? I don't know. You hear women say, I don't know why I do that. Simple. An unclean spirit will make you do it. Men know. Out there acting a fool. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and this is what I want to tell you. Halloween is celebrated every day. Unclean spirits. How bad is it to have an unclean spirit that loves to create an unclean soul? You have an unclean spirit inside, and you like to have an unclean soul. Simple. And you say, what does that mean, Anthony? You want to go tattoo yourself up? You want to go fornicate? You ain't married. You're out there sleeping around. Many times, you've never been married, and you're out there sleeping around, and you just want to run to church, sprinkle a little holy water on you, claim the name of Jesus, and go to heaven. Hey, guess it works that way. But let me continue. This means you celebrate Halloween every day. Halloween is dealing with death. Let's take a look at places in America where Halloween is celebrated the most. We're talking about the spirit destroying the soul. So if you're going to celebrate Halloween, which is dealing in death, it's the spirit destroying the soul. The spirit can destroy the soul, but not itself. Only Yahuwah has the power to destroy your spirit. Remember that. This is why bad spirits are kept in total darkness until the day of judgment. Book of Enoch 10:6. Yahuwah said to Raphael, bind Azazel hand and foot, cast him into darkness, and open the desert which is in Dudael. D-U-D-A-E-L. Dudael? Dudael? Cast him in there. What? You remember back where I was reading and Enoch says, well, no, you're not going, because this is what it says. It's been passed on and granted against you. Well, this is Yahuwah talking here to Raphael. Remember? How do we know there are no women in heaven? It doesn't mean you're not going to heaven. It just means that, in other words, men are in heaven, women here on earth is to keep from the corruption. But when women leave earth, they have the chance of going to heaven. Yes, based on your behavior. Can you follow the code? And what is the code? You're a good helpmeet. If you're out there talking about you don't need no man, men are no good, it's obvious you're not a good helpmeet and you're killing your chance to heaven. Remember that. Okay. Enoch 10:8. There shall he remain forever. Cover his face that he may not see the light. So Yahuwah says to Raphael, a male angel, sons of heaven, that's what they're referred to. Bind Azazel hand and foot. Bind him hand and foot. Cast him into darkness. Open the desert. Cast him in there. There he shall remain forever, cover his face that he may not see light. Why would he say that? The spirit needs light. Let's say you're in a dark cave. The body will start to deteriorate. I forgot what you get. Leprosy, because of lack of sunlight, lack of this nutrients. You start to get leprosy on the soul. But the spirit needs light. The spirit needs light. This is why the soul can remain in this darkness, but it deteriorates, especially from this leprosy. But the spirit cannot remain in the darkness. It needs light. So the key here is, ladies and gentlemen, and they say the gates of pearliness and all of the gold and all the glitter, whatever. Quit listening to that mess they're teaching you. The most important thing is that when you leave this world, your spirit needs to be in presence of light. If your spirit is in total darkness, and it talks about darkness that can be felt, you messed up. You messed up here on earth. Because that spirit needs light. And if it's in total darkness, that is punishment. Jubilee 22:16. And do you, my son Yaakov, who is called Jacob, remember my words and observe the commandments of Abram, your father. Separate yourself from the nations and eat not with them, and do not according to their works, and become not their associate. For their works are unclean, and all their ways are pollution, and abomination, and uncleanliness. You cannot hang around people who have unclean spirits, who then show up with an unclean soul, and think that your spirit is going to remain clean, and your soul is going to remain clean. Ain't happening. I met a youth minister who put tattoos on his arm. He said so he could relate to the youth. Youth minister put tattoos on his arm so he could relate to the youth. The youth. And I looked at him and said, dude, how can you relate to my children that way? Because nobody in the family has tattoos. No one, in the family is showing an unclean soul. How do you show an unclean soul to innocent children to relate to them? Huh? The best way to relate to youth, get out of that street. Quit acting that way. Straighten up and behave. Say your prayers. Do right. Do good. That's the way you talk to youth. Because why? Now they're messing up. Messing up. Okay, let's continue. And this is something you have to understand in Jubilee 22:17, because I know some of you, the Day of the Dead is coming, and some of you practice this. They offer their sacrifices to the dead, and they worship evil spirits, and they eat over the graves, and all their works are vanity and nothingness. Some of you will go out and leave food on the grave because it's tradition. But that's a no-no. No one told you that? Numbers 19:16. And whosoever touches one that is slain with a sword in the open field, or a dead body, or a bone of a man, or a grave shall be unclean 7 days. What? You telling me that if you just go to the cemetery, touch one of them grave sites, step on the grass, I'm unclean for 7 days? Yes. So you're out there celebrating Halloween, showing the evilness and the wickedness. Some of you were in parties last night, half butt naked. And somehow you're on your way to heaven. Listen, Numbers 19:22. And whosoever the unclean person touches shall be unclean, and the soul that touches it shall be unclean. What? You telling me that a person who celebrates this wickedness, hanging out at the grave last night, left a plate of food on the grave, is unclean? And then I see that person at the store and shake their hand, and they just made me unclean? Wow! Can you imagine that what it's stating is that if this person is unclean, get away from him. His soul is unclean, his body, his spirit must be unclean. Get away from him before it affects you. Let me continue. I'm almost over. Almost done. Celebrating Halloween every day. Let me give you an example. Food has high pesticides. Children are given tainted apples by witches. Halloween. Here, dearie. As she's stirring a pot, the apples are floating. She takes that apple. You see that kind of like steam come off that joker. Huh? And it's always to children. Why? Because it's always to turn out the youth into the wickedness. So, high pesticides on your food, you're not celebrating Halloween? Sure you are. Let's continue. Water has poison in it. The water has high pesticides in California, such at a level that the state of California will not regulate pesticides. Now, state of California is supposed to be so much about the environment and your health that it will not regulate one of the most dangerous chemicals on earth because of the agriculture industry. Now, you can go to other states. They may not have small control, and they may not do this or that, but they have regulation on pesticide. But California makes you believe that I'm here to save you, but will not regulate one of the most dangerous substances, this pesticides. They won't regulate it. Why? Because it would affect the money. And the money is more important than your life. Let's continue. The air is poison. In fact, they were dumping chemtrails. And chemtrails is taking aluminum and grinding it up real fine and releasing it into the air. This is why when you see some of the forest fires, especially in California, would burn so hot, that's because of the aluminum that is there in the earth. If you take an aluminum can and set that joke on fire, it will burn. And when it starts to burn, it'll take off. Let's continue. Medication side effects. Most of us growing up never even used to hear side effects on medicine. Now, the side effects outweigh the goodness of the drug. The side effects, sometimes you hear so much in side effects, you say, well, dude, you're better off with the disease. Let's continue. Toothpaste and water has aluminum residue added called fluoride. Fluoride is aluminum. It is the residue after you melt the metal. This is what's left. To prevent from having to pay for disposing of this metal, they just went over to the dental association, paid them money, because that's how it goes in America, and told them this fluoride is beneficial for the people's teeth. So they started adding this to the water, to your toothpaste, to whatever else. Why? So they didn't have to pay for disposal of this chemical. Fluoride, aluminum in the water, is the same thing that Hitler used to give to the Jews. It dumbs you down. It makes you retarded or mentally challenged. So interesting. The church knows that aluminum is put in the water, aluminum is put in the toothpaste, and they will give it to a baby. So if you believe that the church is to save you and help you make it to heaven, I hate to tell you, but since the church has been silent on issues such as this, it's not likely you're going to make it to heaven through the church. Because it's obvious there's a misguiding, as if they're trying to guide you to the grave. In the church is where you'll find presidents, senators, doctors, lawyers, school teachers, businessmen, bankers, policemen. In the church is where there's all knowledge. So there is no excuse for you not to know about crime in your neighborhood, you not to know about a medical issue, you're not to be able to prosper with banking, because all the knowledge is in the church. The only problem is the church only utilizes that knowledge for itself. It does not utilize the knowledge to help its congregation. It lets the congregation suffer while the preacher takes that knowledge to benefit himself and the church. And when I mention the church, you're the congregation. You're not the same as the church. Believe me, you don't live in a 10,000 square foot house, but many of those ministers do. You don't fly in an $80 million jet unless you're paying for a ticket sitting in coach or maybe first class. But these ministers have $80 million jets that just carry them around the world. You have to be careful, ladies and gentlemen. It's very dangerous out there. But what I'm teaching you here is that wickedness is always a victim. Wickedness never admits to itself. And wickedness always is pleading in front of holiness. Don't hang me. One of the biggest places that you'll find wickedness is where they're getting ready to put someone to death. And when you listen to some of the heinous acts, they're getting ready to put someone to death at one of the prisons. You listen to some of the heinous acts of this individual, and you're saying, yeah, he needs to be put to death. But you'll see a group of people out there fighting for Barabbas. Say Barabbas. It's wrong for you to lethally put someone to death. And yet, you never hear those people stand up for Yahusha or Jesus. And those are the victims. And that's what's so sad about the wickedness of seeing itself as a victim. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anthony Showers, and you be safe. Take care. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to support this show, No Women in Heaven, you can go to Buy Me a Cup of Coffee, and there you can go ahead and make a small donation. Again, I'll leave a link in the bottom of this video to where you can buy me a cup of coffee and help support this program. Thank you very much. My name is Anthony Showers. Be safe.